get started. Hi everyone, my name is, hi everyone, thank you so much for attending our youth panel. My name is Clarabelle, and I'll be one of the moderators.
Hi, I'm Maddie, and I'll be your other moderator. Our panel today will follow a Q&A and then breakout rooms for group discussions with the panelists after. So today, we'll be hearing from climate youth activists and leaders who will share their experiences and challenges navigating the climate space as youth. You'll be hearing from Peri, an SVYCA youth founder and UC Berkeley student, Stephanie Liu, an environmental scientist at CalRecycle, Ashwin Mukherjee, co-founder at a national award-winning Algaeorithm, and a student at USC, and Timothy Lee, a climate advocate from San Mateo County.
We'll be starting with introductions for Timothy Lee.
Hi everyone, I'm Timothy. I'm a rising senior at Shasta High School in Berkeley City. I'm the co-president of our school's environmental club, which does zero waste initiatives and also aims to get students involved in the youth climate space. And I'm also a member of a few other youth organizations. A couple I'd like to highlight is Project Superplants. Got Harper, the founder, in the back right there, which is an organization that where high school students present to elementary and middle school students about climate change. I'm the founder of a chapter of Project Superplants at my school. And I'm also a core member of the Bay Area Youth Climate Summit Advisory Council, where I coordinate and plan all of our media relations with our social media and the website, and also have a role in coordinating environmental justice educational workshops.
Thank you, Timothy. We'll be moving on to Stephanie Liu.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, yes, it's one. Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm an environmental scientist at CalRecycle, and I'm on the battery recycling program that we are kickstarting right now. I'm developing regulations, kind of the overall gist of my job. So I do a lot of coordination, writing regs, interpreting the law. It's a lot of reading. But yeah, and previously worked at Santa Clara County Vector Control, where I did vector surveillance for 2 summers. I started offered to be a management aide, so I was on a contract for that, and then before that, worked in habitat restoration at Grassroots Ecology, which is this local nonprofit here in the Bay, and they do a lot of habitat restoration, also landscape monitoring. I think it's great for me just to get a foot in the door.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and our next speaker will be Peri. Peri Plantenberg joined SVYCA on the day it was founded. In the ensuing months, she helped organize a climate march with 2,000 attendees. To expand SVYCA further, Peri co-organized a virtual speaker series and workshops with 200 people each. She co-founded SVYCA's Sunnyvale team and co-created a climate curriculum that was presented to 8,000 FUHSD students. After SVYCA became a 501c3 nonprofit, Peri served as the first president of the board of directors. Peri currently attends UC Berkeley as a rising junior and mentors the SVYCA Sunnyvale team.
I have a bit of an SVYCA story. This is kind of my introduction as well as what you just heard. So, hi, I'm Peri. I'm a junior at UC Berkeley, and this is my SVYCA story. I joined this organization on the day it was founded at the first annual summit in 2019. At the event, I was immediately struck by the adult co-founders' commitment to effectiveness. I heard them say, "We don't have time to waste on anything that doesn't make a wide impact." After the summit, I emailed the co-founders to ask, what impact can I make right away? They invited me to advocate at a Cupertino City Council meeting. I was 15 years old. Thank you. I was 15 years old when I made my first public comment. Our advocacy was successful. Cupertino passed one of the strongest all-electric reach codes in the state. I saw that I could make a huge impact even as a youth. Next, I told an SVYCA co-founder, Hoi Poon, that I had already co-organized a 40-person climate march. Hoi said, let's organize a 2,000-person climate march. So we did. After the march, I helped expand and oversee the organization for 4 years, and I helped us transition to a 501c3 nonprofit, serving as president of the board of directors at the age of 18. Now, at the age of 20, I mentor the Sunnyvale team and the workshops team, and our Sunnyvale team just recruited 11 new members in 1.5 months, and I'm really proud of them. Thank you, and I look forward to the panel.
Thank you so much, Peri, and our next speaker will be Ashwin.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashwin. I have less, I guess, of a moving story than Peri just told you guys, but I can start with the reason that I'm probably here, which is a project called Algaeorithm that I worked on in high school. This was sort of a project that I started working on sophomore year of high school that basically, in short, allowed high school students and middle school students to learn a lot about bioenergy and do hands-on bioenergy research just by using a web application that they could access for free. And so that project is sort of the genesis of my environmental sustainability journey. And we got to work with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which is, I assume, affiliated with you guys to some degree. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm also going to be a sophomore at USC in the fall, and I'm interning at a startup called Autograph right now.
So, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Now we'll be moving on to a section of questions called Navigating the Environmental or Sustainability Space. So the very first question I have is, how has the navigating the environmental sustainability space been for each of you guys? Does anyone want to start first?
Sure.
You go first.
Wait, so what's the question previously?
How has navigating the environment or sustainability space has been for you?
Okay, it's pretty broad. Well, I guess I started out a couple years ago with doing this program with the Center of County Arts and Education. It's a YCA program that basically taught students about climate change, climate justice, and got them to do projects at their school. And since then, I've basically just spent the past couple of years exploring different areas of the climate space, joining different orgs, and I've found it very, I think it's been very transformative for me. I've met a lot of different people who have focus areas and interests in a lot of different areas, and I feel like I've learned a lot. Well, now I'm here, so.
So the question for everyone to to remember, was navigating how has navigating the environmental/sustainability space been for you? So I love the environmental and sustainability space. I feel like a lot of the time, people in this space share a lot of the same values. For instance, we tend to have a preference toward facts and honesty, a belief in the importance of listening to science, and an understanding of how to have fun while making an impact. Thank you.
I agree with what Peri just said. I think it's been a lot of fun for me to navigate the environmental space. Like, I'm not really involved in it as much anymore, but when I was, especially as a student, I feel like there are a lot of tailwinds at your back if you want to make an impact in the environmental space. So it sort of feels like you can put in like sort of X amount of effort in and get like 2 or 3x the results out, because there's so many people who want you to succeed, and there's so many programs that want you to succeed. So it's sort of like, you know, very satisfying, obviously, to go into something and put a good effort in and then sort of get carried forward a lot by momentum. So it's really satisfying, to be honest. And I feel like you can really see tangible results of your work very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with what Ashwin said. I feel like, I started my environmental journey a little bit later. I didn't officially switch to an environmental science degree until I was a junior in college. So, but I did realize that I feel like because the field is, I wouldn't say it's smaller, but I'm like comparing that to like the tech industry where there's like so many people. But I think because of how we need to like kind of develop this connection to the natural world and also our community, that I feel like it naturally bonds people who work in this space together. And I feel like all the mentors I've had, the people who I've worked with in my past opportunities have been like, they've been so supportive, and they're so willing to give information and to have me learn. I find that actually going out of my way to talk to them and ask about their own experiences have been really helpful for me. It feels less intimidating as I was going through my academic and also my professional career now. So yeah, thank you.
The next question, or like a cluster of questions, is what interested you in this space and how did you start? What drives you to continue environmental advocacy, and how do you think your way of thinking has changed throughout your journey?
I can start this one again. I think initially I came from a space of just like a pure love of nature. I live near San Bruno Mountain State and County Park, and I love our county parks. And then, so as I mentioned earlier, I did the YCA program. I also co-founded a club in my school. And again, initially I think I just approached everything from like a scientific perspective and like a nature perspective, just like loving the environment. But I found that as I've spent more time in this space, I've definitely opened my eyes to the social justice aspect of the activism. Because, you know, what's the saying? It's like environmentalism without social justice, like it's just gardening or something like that. But like it's so essential that we address how, you know, climate change impacts our marginalized communities most, and that's what's definitely has changed about my approach. And it's also part of what keeps me going. It's thinking about the community and of like how like the work that we do and what we advocate for like benefits people, and then also just a community within the space itself, working with such powerful individuals, and we all have like, you know, the same mission. It's really great.
Yeah, so I also grew up going on road trips to national parks, and I've been to 21, I think, so I've been to all the ones in the West. We didn't have like the funds to go out of the country or anything, so my parents brought me on road trips to all these national parks, and I think from being exposed to nature at such a young age so consistently. Because we also went camping like in between those times, and I just naturally developed this connection. Also, I think I would like to give credit to the school curriculum here in I grew up in Palo Alto. So in elementary school, we were taught, hey, this is like, you should, this is how you recycle, this is how you compost, and this is how you, dispose of your waste properly. And I think I really honestly credit that for kickstarting how policies and actions like this really help impact the community. And I think I also, I kind of lost my interest in environmental science in high school because I was so oh, I need to do a more high visibility job like being a doctor. So yeah, I focused on that, but it honestly wasn't really my passion. But I think I first really started gaining that interest back when I took AP Environmental Science in high school again, and I was like, wait, this is really cool, and I really like it. I should probably look into it more, but I didn't end up doing that because, societal pressure and everything, but I think I finally let that go. I was like, weighing the opportunity cost. I was like, oh, what if I gave up being a doctor, and what if I gave up being in environmental science? What would I regret the most? And so yeah, I feel like I would find it more fulfilling to be an environmental scientist, and being one now, I think it's great. But yeah, so that's kind of the whole story.
So what interested you in the environmental space and how did you start? Well, I think nearly all of our youth from a young age had heard of the importance of helping the environment, even if we didn't learn about climate change in schools. My first organizing impact was in 7th grade when, with 2 other students, I created a recurring litter pickup club at an elementary school. I co-created it, and then we passed it down to some upperclassmen elementary schoolers to continue the club. And I saw that I could make an impact even at the age of 12. Thank you.
So like everyone here and everyone on this panel, I'm sure if you grow up in the Bay Area, it's kind of hard not to appreciate nature a lot just because we have so much of it. And in parallel with that, a few years ago, as most of you probably remember, we had a lot of fires every fall. And so I think that made it very visible how vulnerable the environment could be, and it wasn't something that we could just take for granted. So, through growing up like that, I think I sort of gained a lot of empathy for the cause, but I didn't deliberately choose to go into working on a sustainable, environmental sustainability project. That sort of just happened serendipitously by following an interest I had in another subject, which was synthetic biology and computational biology, and that pathway kind of just, branched naturally into sustainability. So, that's how I started working on my project. But I think most people who grow up here, to be honest, have a very sort of sentimental appreciation for nature. And like I said, yeah, because it was sort of revealed that it wasn't going to be something that was always around, it could just, all of the fires could destroy a lot of the preserves that I loved going to. I gained a lot of, like I said before, I guess just empathy for the sustainability movement.
Thank you so much for everyone and their wonderful responses. And now we're going to be asking some individually directed questions. So, Peri, can you elaborate on the climate march you organized? What were the challenges as a youth in organizing such a large event? And on the other hand, did you feel that there were advantages to being a youth when you organized it?
Yeah, so I was only there for the first half of the organizing of the march, but I did a lot of work in that first half and I kind of got things started. One challenge was that we needed to acquire a permit, And this is a great example of the importance of having adult advisors in the organization. The advantage of being a youth was that we had energy and dedication because we care about climate change, so we want to see initiatives through, but we did not have as much experience as the adult advisors at getting a permit. So they helped us find a permit, among helping with other things. During my time organizing the march, I remember people felt primarily two emotions. First, we felt overwhelmed because there was so much to do. For instance, we had to determine transportation to get students from their schools to the meeting point. We also had to work on outreach to environmentalists at schools and train them to recruit students at their school and take them to the march. However, so we knew there was a lot to do and we felt overwhelmed. However, we also felt empowered. We knew we were doing something impactful and something that needed to be done. We needed to show elected officials that their constituents cared about climate change and we want them to take action. Through the march, we successfully achieved that goal. Thank you.
Another question for Peri. What is the most impactful, in your opinion, action you have taken to combat climate change?
The most impactful step I have taken to combat climate change was joining SVYCA.
Next question's directed to Stephanie. So, how did you, with your current job about batteries, how do you hold producers responsible for managing batteries' life cycle? And what is the biggest part of the job and the hardest?
Yeah, so the program I'm implementing right now is an EPR program. EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. You know this. It's basically, California is one of the states that kind of was a trailblazer in this in the US, and basically the entire concept is to take the burden off of managing and properly disposing waste, moving it off of people, the consumers, to producers. So for the law I'm supposed to be implementing right now, we have producers who are under this organization. We basically are requiring them to pay for accessible and convenient collection sites for primary rechargeable batteries, because right now we only have a collection system for rechargeable. So the cell phone take back program you see at Apple and like T-Mobile, and that's part of another act that was enacted earlier in 2006. And this program is, so they pay all the costs, they pay us, I'm actually paid by them, I'm supposed to be. Transporting all the waste, managing it, everything, that's all paid by them. So that's the whole entire idea of the EPR program, and it has, it's getting better. When it first started out, it was like kind of a hot mess. A lot of legal loopholes, but I think with my statute I'm working on, just AB 2440, it's probably one of the most refined ones that we have right now. We'll see once the program's implemented if there's any problems, but yeah, it's been really fun. I think the thing that has been really hard for me is that I've never really actually officially worked in policy. So this is all very new to me. It was a very large learning curve. I had pretty bad imposter syndrome for like the first 4 months. I was like, I don't know how I was hired. Like I literally, the only policy experience I had was in school. We had a lot of policy classes, so yeah, I was like, I don't know how to all this legalese is like kind of crazy. I don't really know how to read it. But I have a very supportive team, and I credit them for that. And also, I think environmental science in general, I call it puzzling pieces from different puzzle sets into one that works. So it's hard to coordinate lots of different moving parts, but when you do, it's very fulfilling, and you see that actually makes a really big impact. Waiting on the impact part later. But yeah, what's the third part of the question? Sorry, that question was really long.
Sorry. The third part is like, what is the the hardest?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I explained that already. Lots of coordination between agencies. We talked to Washington State because they have a better program that they're also implementing at the same time as us. So talked to them, they're like, hey, we have this question, can you answer? And they're like, no or yes. Do coordination with other departments, like Department of Toxic Substances Control. We work with their lawyers. We work with lawyers a lot, and yeah, I think that's probably the hardest, honestly. It's just like sitting on the computer 8 hours a day, reading all this stuff, and then having to write it. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. The other question is about your previous job with vector control. Could you elaborate what vector control is and kind of just how you like the job or not?
For sure. Yeah, I got this internship through the county internship, like the county of Santa Clara internship program, where you kind of just put your application in and you're like, hey, this is my interest, so I said environmental, and then they filter you through the system and they kind of see which departments need help. So one of them was vector control, and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. I don't know what vector control is. So it's so a vector is basically any organism that can transmit disease. So for example, mosquitoes, because they carry malaria, or West Nile, these ticks, birds, etc. So that's a vector, and what vector control does is that they try to mitigate the spread of vector-borne diseases. So what I did at vector control was I would basically gather data, which is set traps out for mosquitoes, because that's the thing that we were worried about the most. I would collect it, and then I would run the lab analysis. So it was DNA isolation, and then run PCRs, and then with the help of our ecologists, we kind of determine if we do get a positive case, which we do multiple times during the summer, especially right now. Kind of figure out, hey, okay, this is the zone that we want to fog and spray pesticides. So you ever see a truck at 11 p.m. this fogging machine in the back? That's us. And so yeah, so when that happens, we go out and fog, and I've been on them. So we go from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. And so it's supposed to help reduce the population of these fogging mosquitoes. It was really fun. It was kind of half outside, half inside. So it was a really good balance, and I really, really liked it. It did get a little repetitive, but that's okay. I was like, this is making a difference in my community for their public health. And during my internship, I ran a research project on pesticide resistance, specifically on this one gene called, I think, LF1014. So I did a little project on that, went out and did my own thing. It's kind of the same thing as our surveillance program, so it wasn't any different. And then I did this other side project that was seeing how many, it was a very simple one, seeing how many mosquitoes I could get that have not laid eggs, have laid eggs, or currently are hosting eggs. So what I would do is I'll sit in front of a microscope for 3 hours a day, and I would just with fine tweezers, and I'll be dissecting these mosquitoes, and I'll be looking at it through their ovaries. And it's really cool. I wish I had have a photo or something, but I would just sit there and I'll just be dissecting hundreds of mosquitoes every single day. I'm like, what am I doing? But so yeah, that was one of the projects. But it was really, it's really fun. It was actually really fun. So yeah, that was my work.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your experience with that. And now for Ashwin, can you elaborate more on how the algorithm worked and what it actually is, as well as what are the biggest challenges you faced while making it?
Sure, so to give you guys a bit more context, Algaeorithm, it started as a really small sort of proof of concept. So me and my cousin were both taking this summer course. We both had wanted to work on a computational biology project together, so I reached out to the research scientist who was teaching that course, and he very graciously offered to mentor us on a project. And he asked do we think we could make a sort of image recognition algorithm that allowed you to upload a picture of algae cells that you took on your iPhone and then get returned just the number of cells in that image. So a very simple proof of concept. And we were able to do that pretty easily and pretty quickly. So we validated that. And then from there, it's sort of, let's see, over the next 2 years, or really a year mostly, but over the next sort of couple of months and then a year after that, it evolved into gaining more and more features over time. So we started by just okay, you take a picture of the cells, and there's 17 cells in this picture. Then it evolved into, all right, let's see how many different algae species we can do this in. And then it evolved to, can we model growth over time? If you have a picture on day 1 and then day 2 and then day 3, can we show you what it's, how many cells are going to be in your sample on day 15 or day 60? So that's sort of the technical basis. And then the reason, the environmental relationship to this project is that biofuels use algae biofuels can be a sustainable alternative to fossil fuels, and algae is really good at growing hydrocarbons naturally. So if you take the hydrocarbons from algae and use them to synthesize sustainable biofuels, then you're able to have kind of net zero liquid fuels, which can be really useful for airplanes and ships and stuff like that. So that's sort of the broader context of the application. In terms of challenges, there's 2 baskets of challenges. One were just technical problems when we were working on the application, and I don't want to bore everyone with the minutia of figuring out what the correct neural network to use is to process these images correctly, and how we had to go from trying to narrow down or use super high resolution images, and then slowly, obviously, we were targeting this application towards students who had lower quality images and blurred images and out of frame images. So that was sort of the technical basket of challenges. But the one that I feel was more relevant to our project was the challenge of figuring out who the correct audience to market our project was. And that looked so we had this application that was able to do some sort of computational processing pretty quickly and replace this manual process pretty quickly. So, once we were there, we didn't really know what exactly to do with it, because we knew it had some potential to be a good, sustainable project, but we didn't really know how. So we were thinking, okay, maybe do we try and give this to research labs to use in their research? Do we give this to hard industry people who are a company that's working on manufacturing biofuels, or do we give it to students? Which market do we have the strongest case for? And we eventually landed on the students. And I think it was really difficult to sort of navigate, not difficult, but sort of confusing and nebulous at times to understand what that correct market looked like for us. But we tested all 3 waters out and eventually just got the strongest response from the students. And talking to our mentor, it just made the most sense to target that, as we were students ourselves, so we had a pretty compelling why us for the project. So yeah, those are sort of the 2 challenges, but definitely figuring out who we should target the project toward was the biggest challenge and had the biggest payoff once we figured out the answer.
Is there any advice that you would give for students, maybe even in this room, on how they would get started on their own research projects?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. First, like I said before, especially in environmental sustainability, you really do have a lot of tailwinds as a student, because there's so many organizations that want you to succeed and want to support kids going into environmental work. So I think you have a lot of momentum and reason to start such a project. And then in terms of starting it itself, I would try and you can't sort of, I would say, start at the end point of what you want to accomplish and then work backwards toward like, this is step one, this is step two of like, I want to, eventually hold like, I want to replace the like compost system in like 300,000 homes, and then you work backward, and it doesn't really work like that, where everything is like super linear and you can exactly plan out like A to B to C until you get to your goal. I would say it's a lot better to just think about what your actual interests are, both in terms of like the impact that you want to make, but also the way that you make that impact. So whether that's public speaking, or whether that's some sort of artistic thing, or some sort of technical or scientific research skill that you have, what are those skills that are really interesting to you? And then you can kind of just like follow a process of getting really good at that skill and trying to apply it to the areas you're interested in. And I like really strongly believe that over a big enough time horizon, if you do that, you'll start to get results that are really exciting. So just think about what you're actually interested in and sort of follow that, and don't be too strict about what the outcomes you are looking for.
Thank you, Ashwin. Now, these questions are directed to Timothy. What is the Zero Waste Initiative that you implement at your high school campus? And what are the challenges while implementing it? Did you get support from your school admin?
So I think first, to preface, I go to Shasta, the city, which is like, it's a tiny charter, so I'm not gonna say they're broke, but they're careful with funds. So I guess the big issue was that there was little recycling going on, and there was like basically no composting at all, because of just the lack of compost bins, and then also poor placement of recycling bins. So basically, it was a bit of a infrastructural issue, and also like a cultural issue. Like, so students were unsure of where to put trash, so then they just put it everywhere in all the bins, and then that's just a norm. So basically, our initiative was to identify the root cause of the problem and address that, but then also to reset the cultural norm that had been established. So our initiative involved doing a lot of informational campaign work, where we talked about just the basic stuff, how you properly dispose of trash, but then also why this is important for the environment and for people, and then also we talked about basically we talked about why we should do this, and then we also tried to work with administrators to actually solve the issue. So talk to admin, and they're like, hey, we need more recycling and compost bins. And they said, we agree and we support you, but we're not going to do it. So we had to figure it out ourselves. And we found local partners instead that could help us. Our local waste collection service for public services, they were gracious enough to supply us with a lot of recycling and compost bins. And then also the county office of sustainability, they gave us signage so that we could properly label everything, so people knew what stuff. And then to further assist us in convincing the community, and also our admin, because they weren't exactly the most cooperative. My club and I, we conducted a school waste audit, which is basically just fancy words for we don't do trash. Because we basically assessed what was being disposed of, and it was essentially all going to landfill. So we conducted a waste audit to see how much of it was compost and how much of it was recycling, and so we could identify how much our diversion rate, how much of it could be diverted from the landfill, could be, and then compared it to what it was. I don't remember the exact numbers, but basically it was a lot of it could be diverted and none of it was being diverted. And then we compiled that data and basically presented it to our admin, so that to kind of show them how big an issue we were having. And it works, like they're supportive of us, but then also like, change takes a long time. So it's, there's still sometimes like a little bit of a struggle to get to listen to all of our demands, but yeah. And then another thing with our campaign, we submitted it to like this contest or challenge hosted by a nonprofit called SEI. I think it's like, it stands for Sustain, Energize, Innovate or something like that. And we got first place for the challenge, which gave us like some extra funds for our club to use, so we could actually use that to contribute to getting more stronger waste collection system, and like just other general stuff. So we also founded a native plant garden out of that funds. Yeah, that was basically my waste mission.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to another set of questions. These questions are focused on youth experience and directed to all the panelists, so feel free to speak as you see fit. We feel like the first two questions we had were already talked about, like challenges as an advocate and also advice to youth. So this is our question for you. What message do you have for the people who want to support youth in their journey?
I can start. Are you talking about like other youth, like who want to support youth, or like adults who want to support youth, or both?
Mostly adults, yeah.
Sure. I think there's one thing today that's a lot different from like probably 30 or even 20 years ago, which is that information is so pervasive and it's so easy to learn stuff online today that pretty much anyone at almost any age, like obviously they're not like a 2-year-old, but like people in high school can pretty much learn, I believe like any skill, and you don't really have to have like a formal degree in a specific field to have a very high level of understanding and aptitude in it. So as like an adult, I guess, who wants to support a youth, I don't really think the correct way to look at that process is like, how can I support a youth, or how can I support a kid do like a little kid or a high school project, or like a middle school project, or like a teenage level project. I think you have to assess the youth based off of their like level of ability and interest, because I honestly believe that there are a lot of high school kids today who have like ridiculous levels of talent and ability and are fully capable of doing like adult jobs in high school already, which might not be like popular, a popular thought, but it's something that I believe is true. So I think you should look to, and like there's two advantages. One, you get to work with like a kid who's very hungry, and it's usually fun to work with kids because it's they're more energetic and inspired and optimistic about the future, and as a result make you adapt those qualities as well. But kids are also eager. They don't really have leverage in what they can do because the world is not like throwing out opportunities every left, right, and center to high school students. So you kind of have, as an adult, leverage to get these really talented kids to work with you, and I would really take advantage of that, because if you're working, if you're trying to advance like a certain environmental cause, then you can really do a lot by just getting a high school student who's like very motivated to come work with you.
I think the biggest thing is to get involved and explore your options, because sustainability, environmental field is really big. There's a lot out there that you could get yourself, that you see yourself in a career, and even as a professional. My colleagues have moved like a 4 years. So like my supervisor moved from watershed to oil and gas, to air and pollution and noise, and now she's in waste management. So going out and exploring your options is super important. You can see what you like and what you don't like. Ask questions. Everyone's there to help you. And also not being scared of reaching out to people, especially in government or any organization. Just cold email them, be like, hey, I would really like to have some experience and I was wondering if you could host me. And having that energy of like wanting to learn. I think that's like the biggest thing in the field right now. And the worst answer is no, but that's okay. You probably are emailing other people. But yeah, I think that's all I really have. Not being too niche, I think, is also good. Having the fundamental skills. So like public speaking, unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't like public speaking, but it's a very big thing in sustainability and environmental. And just, you know, the biophysics, etc. So yeah, that's kind of what I have.
Yeah, so to adults who want to support youth on their journey, I would say number one is just to be accessible to youth, because we know adults, but we don't know that they're willing to help. And to be a listener that youth can turn to so that you can point them into some direction. And I think it's important to note that you don't have to have all the answers, but you can like point them to a direction, and actually you can teach them a good skill, which is to find answers themselves. So for instance, there's Ecosia/Google, or you can ask an adult advisor in SVYCA, they have a lot of answers for climate questions. And then if they don't have an answer, you can also go on LinkedIn and find like experts in that field or in that specific area and say, hey, I Googled this, I went on Ecosia and they didn't have this. So do you have an answer for this climate question? And I think they'll be very willing to help. I think LinkedIn especially, I want to just make a note. It's really powerful to say like, hi, I'm in high school. Because they'll be impressed by that you're like already, you know, thinking about these things and you're interested in the sustainability field at a younger age. And so they'll be really willing to help you most of the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess just to answer this, it's really just echoing what everyone else has already said, but well, I feel like Peri just put it perfectly. I mean, just adults just be accessible, and because I think like there's so many youth who, you know, are really passionate and really eager for guidance and support, and so they just need adults to, you know, help them in that direction, or either to guide them or to point to, you know, resources that they need. I think that's all you gotta do.
Thank you. We only have about 2 minutes, so if anyone wants to do a quick Q&A, and then we have to go to closing remarks. Anyone has any questions?
Peri, I was at the 40-person march and the 2,000-person march, and I was really impressed by both of them. And I know that COVID has thrown a huge monkey wrench into all of your lives, your whole generation. But I wonder if the passion to march and to demand will return, or have we moved into a more virtual world where Fridays for the Future are all in the past?
Ooh, great question. Okay, so I think a couple things I want to say. One is that I think SVYCA thrives on a virtual method. Because we're able to access people all over Silicon Valley, and we don't have to live super close by, and we don't have to go to the same school to advocate at city council meetings. That's another thing, is that we don't have to go to the actual city council meeting, we can just go virtually, and then that way students can do their homework while they're waiting, and then we have our adult mentor or one of the youth like text and say, okay, you need to get on the Zoom now, and now you need to raise your hand, and now you're going to speak. Right, but you can like do your homework in the middle. And I think Zoom and going virtual has had a lot of benefits to SVYCA. And then in terms of marches. So one thing I learned after organizing the 2,000 person march is that we can't just organize marches because we have to follow up, right? We have to advocate for climate policies so that we can keep elected officials accountable. Because the march achieved its goal of getting elected officials' attention and saying that we demand action on climate. And then elected officials were more receptive to our advocacy. I actually had a whole thing on here, but we didn't have time for that question. And so I do think marches are important in general, so I think maybe SVYCA won't be organizing a march, but other groups might. And I know the other groups are doing like strikes or things like that. And I think I see like on Instagram, they're sometimes not virtual, but it's outside, so it doesn't seem like it's not, they could wear masks, but it's all about the risk factor. So yeah, but good question.
Thank you so much, Peri, and we've reached the end of our time limit. So if you'd like to speak with and follow up with any of these speakers during our networking session, feel free to do so. And thank you to everyone who attended. We hope you had an amazing time and enjoyed listening to our speakers. And let's give a round of applause for Peri, Ashwin, Stephanie, and Timothy.